Both players ready here in the feature match area. This Gruul Phoenix deck, I'm curious to see how it does, because this is a pretty nice take on what is kind of a static archetype at the moment. We saw an interesting build last round in the hands of, oh, what's his name?
Marshall Arthurs.
Marshall Arthurs, that's it. And unfortunately was beaten by Aaron Barich's burn deck, but I'm curious to see how this Gruul version does. It's very interesting.
Getting a look at what appears to be a mulligan to 6 as Inquisition targets Zan. See a hand of Sunbaked Canyon, Wooded Foothills, Lava Dart, Monastery Swiftspear, and 2 Manamorphose. Interesting take for Grosofsky. He's going to pick one of those Manamorphoses.
Yeah, those just cycle, but sometimes they actually do some really powerful stuff. I think Grosofsky probably has a hand with a spot removal spell and just wants Zan to go turn 1 Swiftspear and he's just going to kill it. And if he takes the Swiftspear with a discard spell, then he's probably going to have some dead removal spells along the way.
We'll go over to Zan. He's going to play and sacrifice Wooded Foothills, fetching to 19. See if he wants to expose that he's on that green splash just yet. He'll grab a mountain.
Yeah, with another fetch lane in hand for the draw for the turn, no real reason to show that you are playing another color.
Here's a Monastery Swiftspear, both players now at 19 from the attack.
Interestingly enough, can also just cast Wrenn and 6 off of Manamorphose, which is nice. Wrenn and 6 also kind of acting like a bit of extra damage from those prowess creatures as well.
Tapped Stomping Ground. It's land number 2 for Grosofsky. Means he could have a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt. And there's Lightning Bolt on the Swiftspear.
Yeah, going to go ahead and main phase Bolt, so no play a bunch of spells in response shenanigans. That Lava Dart hanging out does represent a lot of extra burst from the Swiftspear. Grosofsky knows when to utilize that main phase removal.
Another weak draw step for Zan. Picked up another land. Copperline Gorge will be where he starts his turn. He'll fire off Manamorphose. You make a red-red or red-green.
With only 3 copies of Wrenn and 6, I just make red-red, but I don't know. I guess if you have no spell in hand you want to play, red-green might be the safer pick.
Well, either way, he's passing the turn after drawing the card.
Definitely need something like Faithless Looting to turn some of these lands into action. Looks like he might even have Phoenix in hand, though, so.
Swamp into Liliana for Grosofsky. Liliana of the Veil going up to 4. Zan discards Arid Mesa. Grosofsky discards Scavenging Ooze.
Still has one of those Horizon lands in hand. Discarding Scavenging Ooze is interesting. It's possible that Grosofsky hasn't seen the Arclight Phoenix, so doesn't really want to play around it if possible.
Syed drew and is now casting Faithless Looting. Doesn't feel great against the Liliana of the Veil, having further card disadvantage, but if he can find an Arclight Phoenix here, that could be a big swing in his favor. Yeah,
or just a Wrenn and 6 to kind of recoup some of those lost cards by getting lands back. If Grosofsky doesn't have an Abrupt Decay or an Assassin Trophy for it, a Wrenn and 6 unchecked could be quite problematic. It's like Xander just has a handful of red burn spells, but with Bolt and Lava Dart, not really looking too appetizing.
Lava Dart often an easy discard to Faithless Looting, but that changes a lot when you're facing down Liliana of the Veil. You have to be a lot more careful with your cards.
Right.
Zan also getting a little bit flooded this game.
Yeah, it's hard to say that he's flooded because he's only really drawn like 4 lands, but at the same time, you know, the deck operates on 2 lands pretty easily. Plays a very low land count with only, I believe, 17, but he might be a little bit higher thanks to the Gruul Turfs and stuff.
That's going to take me a second to count these. He has quite the spread of different lands. He's going to use his turn, putting some burn spells at Liliana, takes that down.
18. Yeah, but Lava Spike plus Dart does knock off the Liliana. And now Zan basically empty-handed, though.
Yeah, just totally out of cards to take care of Liliana. And, ooh, huge follow-up for Grosofsky. It's Tarmogoyf. We have Planeswalker, Creature, Instant, Sorcery, Land.
Yeah, at least a 5/6. Missing Artifact, Enchantment, and Tribal. I really wish they would bring back Tribal, honestly. There's a lot of spells that have been played over the years that, like from Kazatar Care Block, there were a lot of Reveal Dragon cards from your hand to make them better spells. Those absolutely should have been Tribal.
Tribal's like a mechanic that I agree, sometimes it feels like it should be around, but I want to say, if memory serves, it's like an 11 on the Storm scale. I think they've announced that they have no interest in going back. Say it draws Manamorphose, makes a red and green off of that.
Now Zan here, Resolve Manamorphose, only has one card in hand from the draw. Has made red-green, so if he draws Ren and 6, he can play it. He's going to just flash back a Faithless Looting, though. Now, if he finds a Phoenix off the looting, he can discard it and then use a Lava Dart out of the graveyard to bring it back.
Draws on the looting. First one was Lightning Bolt. Didn't see the second one. It's slightly off camera.
Another land, it looks like.
Not ideal.
A couple white bordered cards. Got to be bolts, if I'm not mistaken.
Lightning Bolt, Bloodstained Mire will be discarded.
This is the classic case of Zan just drawing one threat and it being dealt with immediately from Grosofsky's side of things. So not a whole lot he can do. He's kind of spinning his wheels too much and not really applying any pressure. Grosofsky still at 19 life. Zan basically out of cards in hand. Has a Sunbay Canyon on the battlefield that he can pop, but that'll leave him with only 2 total lands left on the battlefield. And this Tarmogoyf is a significant clock.
Inquisition strips the last card from Syed. It was a Lightning Bolt, and here's a Scavenging Ooze. Tarmogoyf knocks Syed to 12. And when you try to play these long games, we're encountering what I like to call the Tarmogoyf problem for a lot of these mid-range red decks. There's not a lot of cards that cleanly answer the Goyf. Syed's primary solution is getting some Arclight Phoenixes going, but that's just not happening this game.
Draws the 4th Manamorphose. Looks like it's not going to be enough. He's going to pack it in the face of 2 large threats and basically no cards in hand.
Jun doing Jun things. Grosofsky up a game over Syed.
Yeah. Zan here, his build of Gruul Phoenix should be a little more insulated against these attrition-based decks like Jun, but unfortunately for him, was unable to capitalize on the relatively slow start from the Jun deck. They played a Discord spell in 1, no threat on 2, instead opted to just kill the Monster Swift here, but Zan never able to get a foot on the battlefield, never found a Phoenix, only found 1 total creature.
Players going to sideboard here for Grosofsky on the Jun side of things. We have 4 Leyline of the Void, 2 Plague Engineer, 2 Fulminator Mage, 2 Kitchen Finks, an Anger of the Gods, a Surgical Extraction, an Injured Explosives, an Ancient Grudge, and a Collector Oof.
All right, starting from the first, Leyline of the Void seems like a no-brainer. The Gruul Phoenix decks, not only do they have Lava Dart and Faithless Looting as flashback cards, but they're relying on Arclight Phoenix to do a lot of the heavy lifting against the generic spot removal from the Jun deck. I would expect all 4 Leylines to come in here because it's also pretty good against Bedlam Reveler. But while Zan only has 1 copy, Grosofsky has to assume there's at least 2. So Leyline does a lot of work here. Fulminator Mage, not so good. Kitchen Finks is okay, can buy you a lot of time. It also, blocks pretty well against a Monster Swift Spear and forces the Gruul deck to kind of cast a couple of spells in response to the block. Anger of the Gods might come in to take care of Phoenix as well as some of those early 1-drops. The Surgical Extraction might come in as well alongside the Leylines to give him a little more protection from Phoenix. That's about it.
Sideboard for Syed, we have a Flame Slash, we have a Seasoned Pyromancer, 2 Blood Moons, 2 Shrine of Burning Rage, 2 Surgical Extraction, 3 Abrades, and 4 Leyline of the Void of his own.
Now, while Leyline of the Void is really good against Gruul Phoenix, it's not particularly good against Jund because Tarmogoyf checks both graveyards. So if Zan brings in Leyline of the Void, it's not really going to do a whole lot. So I don't expect him to bring those in. Braid is more of a spot removal spell for small creature decks. Since it doesn't kill Tarmogoyf, I don't think it'll come in either. Surgical Extraction, kind of a no-go, same as Leyline of the Void. Not a whole lot to hit, not a whole lot of graveyard-related synergy from the Jund deck. Shrine of Burning Rage is an interesting one, but I think that one's more for the Azorius control decks as opposed to Jund. Jund does have a lot of ways to destroy non-land permanents via Assassin's Trophy, as well as Abrupt Decay and Maelstrom Pulse. Blood Moon, I think, is going to be a home run. Seasoned Pyromancer is going to be very good as well, allowing him to turn some of those lava darts and such into 1/1s and kind of spread wide against a Liliana of the Veil. And then Flame Slash is often good enough to kill a Tarmogoyf early in the game, but it's just one of the better removal spells against kind of medium-sized creatures.
For fans of our creature collection, and who doesn't love this stuff, we have another pre-release playmat coming out. This will be for the pre-release of Throne of Eldraine. This is Bombs Awry, an exclusive from the SCG Creature Collection.
You know, I heard a fun fact the other day. Did you know that Eldraine is actually Spanish for the drain?
I have heard that.
Yeah, dude, that's so interesting. I'm not really that cultured, and whenever you hear cool facts like that. Now, this Bombs Awry, it looks like an homage to what's the
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove, yeah. When the cowboy drops out of the plane on the bomb.
How I learned to stop something and learned to do the other thing.
Yeah, how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Ask your local game store if you're already signed up for these Creature Collection exclusive playmats. You can go to go.starcitygames/pre-release to find a pre-release location near you that is carrying them.
Yeah, we always come out with a really cool special playmat whenever a pre-release comes around. Last time it was actually some cat Nirvana. I forgot the name of it.
Pervana.
But it actually featured my cat, Jaeger.
Got the chance to
he was the model.
Meet your cat recently.
Yeah.
I was in town for the Invitational.
It's a good cat.
I liked Cookie a lot.
Cookie's tight.
Get Cookie on a playmat.
Maybe.
That's my position. Players looking at opening hands for game number 2. Syed pretty quickly dissatisfied with his.
Looks like Grosofsky is going to go back to the drawing board as well. Both these players here taking a mull of 6. Of course, we are using the London Mulligan. This new Mulligan rule is in effect now permanently. Until, well, I guess semi-permanently. They can change it whenever they want.
For the foreseeable future.
Right. You know, we had the Paris Mulligan for years and years. Eventually changed that to the Vancouver Mulligan, where we did the Scry, and now we're doing the London Mulligan, where you get to draw 7 every single time that you mulligan, and you just put 1 on the bottom of your deck for each time that you mulligan.
Syed playing this take on Gruul Phoenix. He is one to innovate, and he has done that to a lot of success here on the SCG Tour. The 27-year-old from Georgia. In 2018, played 18 Opens with 5 top 8s and a win. All-time 11 top 8s with 2 wins.
Yeah, we saw him kind of have an explosive last year where he, I believe, made the finals and won in back-to-back Opens. One with Spirits and one with another deck that I can't quite recall. Supreme Phantom being his kind of breakout performance last year in that Spirit strategy.
An early adopter of Supreme Phantom. Definitely paid off for him. And we'll find out exactly how good this Renin 6 take is on the Arclight Phoenix strategy.
I can't imagine it's bad. It's just a nuts card. You know, I wouldn't even be surprised to see like some Forgotten Caves or something like that at some point. But Renin 6 just plays kind of like a Planeswalker version of Life from the Loam. And so if you're playing a deck that wants to kill little creatures and doesn't mind getting back some of those Horizon lands like Fire Islet or Sunbaked Canyon or even Forgotten Cave, Renin 6 seems like a no-brainer.
See Syed starts on 17 using Wooded Foothills for Stomping Ground. Got in for 1 with the Swift Spear before Grosofsky lightning bolted it down. Let's see if Syed can apply some additional pressure. Maybe he'll have that turn 2 Renin 6. We see him fetching for a second land off of Bloodstained Mire pretty quickly here.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot in his deck that costs 2 mana, so if it's not a Renin 6, it's probably a Manamorphose going for a big turn here, but there it is.
Renin 6. Goes to 16 to cast it. He's going to go ahead and pick up Wooded Foothills.
I like to call it Renin 6.
Oh, because rent costs money and cards also cost money.
Right, and it's just really expensive. A playset of Renin 6 is like $300. That's crazy.
Inquisition of Kozilek for Grosofsky. And you see Zan had some options last turn. Swift Spear, Soulscar Mage, and light up the stage along with that Wooded Foothills.
He did have some options. Could have deployed 2 1 mana threats. Instead chose to get the Wrenn and 6, understanding that making sure that that doesn't get hit with a discard spell is key in this matchup. Now he's going to be able to hit all his land drops. It's going to give him more fuel if he ever draws Faithless Looting, allowing him to not only cycle through 4 cards, but also just discard some extra lands that he finds.
And you see something that Zan likes about having Wrenn and 6 in the deck, really easy enabler for light up the stage.
Right.
Inquisition takes care of Soul Scar Mage, Wooded Foothills go.
Now that was a very interesting take from Grosofsky there. He chose to take Soul Scar Mage over Monastery Swiftspear, kind of incentivizing Zan to go ahead and play the Swiftspear and get attacking. That has, to me, to signify that Grosofsky actually has a removal spell for it.
There's a couple incentives, right? Removal spell for the Swiftspear, and also, if he just doesn't want the Soul Scar Mage shrinking something like a Tarmogoyf, those -1/-1 counters can be a factor. See, Wrenn and 6 goes to 5, picks up and plays Bloodstained Mire, does Syed, fetches to 15.
Yeah, he's just going to fetch Mountain here, 3 mana. Could be a Blood Moon picked up. He has 2 of those on the sideboard. Let's see what he's got.
Seasoned Pyromancer.
Another great 3-drop. And here, if I'm Zan, I'm pitching at least 1 spell to get an extra 1/1.
It discards the Swiftspear and Wooded Foothills, so it gets an Elemental.
Yeah, and he gets to draw 2 cards off the top.
Still gotta draw 2, right?
Yeah, draw 2 is part of it, so it looks like we're going to make sure that happens.
Yeah, Syed did not draw the 2 cards, but I do not believe that you can ever partially resolve any kind of ability.
Right. As long as the game hasn't gone too far, but we're still fetching here, so we'll make sure that gets handled by the judge.
There we go. This card's a lot worse if you don't draw those cards.
Discard 2 cards. Oh, no. If you discard a spell this way, make a 1/1. Oh, okay. But also draw 2 cards. Oh, yay! It's a real roller coaster. If you don't draw the 2, the card looks really bad.
See Grosofsky cracking a fetch, shocking for an Overgrown Tomb. Fatal Push down the Pyromancer. He's at 16. Land number 3 for him will be Nurturing Peatland.
Now, this Wrenn and 6 is only a few turns away from going to Ultimate. And I got to say, that emblem from the Wrenn and 6 is quite powerful. And any deck featuring Lightning Bolt just allows you to turn any land you draw into a bolt. Any land into a light up the stage for Retrace. Sounds pretty nice.
Grosofsky deploys a Kitchen Finks, takes the damage to cast it off the Peatland, gains 2 life to 17. And we'll see how much damage Syed can do. The Wrenn and 6 is another one of those cards the red deck's happy to have because it makes it easier to engage with the Kitchen Finks.
Right. If he has like a Lightning Bolt or something to pop the front half of the Kitchen Finks, it comes back as a 2/1. Wrenn and 6 can get rid of the back half pretty easily and allow for some attacks. But just going to keep pressing the advantage. Is Zan. He's going to fetch again.
Now has drawn 3 cards off of Wrenn and 6.
Yeah, effectively. He might kind of get left with a few lands in hand at the end of the day, but if he finds Faithless Looting or something like that, or just gets the ultimate off, those lands turn into real spells.
See him fetch to 14. 4 mana at the ready now. Just going to hardcast Arclight Phoenix.
Now, Zan's going to choose to attack here. I would actually love it if he held it back to block to make sure he gets max protection on the Wrenn and 6 because he's so close to hitting ultimate, and it would be such a boon for him if he got that emblem.
Yeah, I was curious about that, but he gets busy with the Phoenix, both players at 14.
Got to get him dead. I don't blame him for it. I would have just liked to have played a little more defense with that Wrenn and 6 almost at ultimate status. The Jund deck does have a lot of ways to actually deal with Planeswalkers in general, though, thanks to the kind of, catch-all nature of Assassin's Trophy and things like that.
There's some incentive for Syed to keep this Phoenix on the battlefield because you don't know what kind of graveyard heat Grosofsky's bringing to the table.
Sure thing.
Trading it in combat and getting hit by Scavenging Ooze would be kind of a disaster case.
I mean, that's fair, and if Grosofsky throws a removal spell at the elemental token so he deals 3 to Wrenn and 6, that's not a huge deal either.
Kitchen Finks attacks Wrenn, elemental token jumps in front. We'll see what Grosofsky can do to try to beat this Wrenn. Here's Scavenging Ooze post-combat.
See if Zan can find a Lightning Bolt here and take care of that Ooze. I know he still has a light up the stage, so he can go attack with Phoenix, deal 3, cast a light up the stage for 1. Still has either activation of Renin 6 at the ready if he needs. So even something like Lava Dart plus a Renin 6 minus off the light up the stage would be enough to clear it.
Ooh. Now he's going to start taking Ren down. He's going to -1, deal a damage to Grosofsky, turns on Spectacle on Light Up the Stage, which he will cast. Copperline Gorge and Shrine of Burning Rage, that's kind of a miss.
Yeah, the Copperline Gorge comes into play taps, notably. So if he wants to have an untapped land here, then he's going to need to play one from hand. And with the Renin 6 active, you have to imagine that he's kind of flooded right now. Doesn't really need that Copperline off the light.
He'll cast the Shrine.
Yeah, now every red spell he plays is going to put an extra counter on the Shrine, and he also gets counter every upkeep if he remembers the trigger. And then at some point, you can spend 3 taps, sack it, and deal a huge chunk of damage to Grosofsky if the game goes that long, and if Grosofsky doesn't have an answer to it.
Card that plays really well with Lava Dart.
Right.
He'll play the Copperline Gorge tapped. And thinking about whether he wants to attack with the Phoenix, now with that Scavenging Ooze on the table, blocking even less inviting. We go ahead and attack, Grosofsky down to 10.
Yeah, I'm guessing he just doesn't have a way to deal with this Ooze, and that's going to put him in a bind. The Ooze here is going to eat a creature. Next turn, it's going to be able to attack for at least 4.
That's neutral on life because of his activated off Nurturing Peatland.
Right. Now, a game that looked like it was going pretty well for Zan is kind of turned on its head.
Bloodstained Mire, land number 4 for Grosofsky. He'll fetch down to 9.
Now, if this is a Bloodbraid Elf, that's going to be huge for Grosofsky. Allow him to apply a ton of pressure while cleaning up this Renin 6.
Very frequently, that is what 4 mana means for the Jund strategy.
Yeah, he could be double spelling, just fetching up the 4th land, but or even 3 mana spell plus an activation of Scavenging Ooze or something like that. There are still 2 more creatures in the grave, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even 3 more creatures in the grave. So if he wants, he could just activate the Scavenging Ooze multiple times, grow it up to a 5. But this Bloodbraid Elf represents perhaps an insane spell. There it is. Wow.
Kolaghan's Command off the Elf.
Wow. So now he can kill Shrine of Burning Rage, make Zan discard a card, or kill Shrine and kill Phoenix.
Shock Phoenix, destroy Shrine.
Now he's going to send 2 creatures at Renin 6 probably, just to make sure that the resources are pretty low in general for Zan, and then the rest going to go face.
So it's 3 3-power attackers, 2 take down Renin 6, 1 bump Syed to 11.
What a hit. There's only 1 Kolaghan's Command here in the main deck for Grosofsky. He found it, and it was brutal. And that's one of the reasons why I thought that Shrine of Burning Rage should probably stay on the sidelines for Zan. This Jund deck has a lot of ways to deal with it, and so you're not going to always get value out of it.
Been playing a lot with these mono red decks, and I see Shrine of Burning Rage in a lot of sideboards. And basically every matchup that you want it has some kind of play against it.
Sure. But if you ever get it going for real, it's pretty nuts.
See Syed lightning bolting down Scavenging Ooze. And
Shocks here with a Stomping Ground. He's going to be activating that Seasoned Pyromancer to generate a few blockers more than likely.
Shocks to 11 for that.
The bolt on the Scavenging Ooze while Grosofsky was tapped out was pretty huge, though, so Grosofsky is not looking as good as he was last turn, but he still looks like he's in okay shape.
Yeah, the bolt bought him some time. Here's Liliana of the Veil for Grosofsky.
Now, that is going to snag Zan's last card. I believe it's a land. Oh, no, he has 2 cards in here, excuse me. One of the lands goes away from the Renin 6, but he still has the Seasoned Pyromancer activation at the ready.
Attack for 6 from Grosofsky. This is most of Syed's life total, so you see him activate that Seasoned Pyromancer from the graveyard.
He's going to get 2 elementals. My guess is both are going to block Bloodbraid Elf, and that's going to clear it. Zan's going to go to 6, facing down Liliana and Kitchen Finks with only 1 card in hand. He's going to need some help off the top. He may choose to soak it and just start getting aggressive with the tokens, especially if he draws something like Bedlam Reveler off the top.
The Liliana of the Veil is interesting in this game because in a lot of ways Syed can just play his card he draws every turn, not care about the discard. but he's also just not getting his Arclight Phoenix back that way.
Right. Liliana of the Veil is very strong at keeping the Arclight Phoenix stuck in the graveyard, just because you need raw resources for Faithless Looting type effects, as well as just you need to play multiple spells in one turn. If you don't have one of those flashback cards, it becomes a lot more difficult.
Syed still thinking on these blocks. This could be an opportunity to trade with the front side of Kitchen Finks, and then your 1 damage effect would take care of that later.
Yeah, he's thinking, like, what are the permutations of draws off the top of the deck that ultimately end with Jonathan dying? And there's actually a reasonable amount. If he goes, like, Manamorphose into Faithless Looting or vice versa, including the flashback, he's able to get back Phoenix. And a Bolt somewhere along the way combined with those 2 tokens on the battlefield equals 8 damage.
So we can end up trading with the Bloodbraid Elf. The Kitchen Finks knocks Syed to 6.
Now, most spells that Zan has, he's going to want to go ahead and use here because he does not have a whole lot going on.
Flame Slash takes care of the Kitchen Finks. It'll then persist. Grosofsky up to 10. And Renin 6 can finish it off. It will.
That's a great turn here from Zan. He's effectively cleared the board from both sides. Grosofsky here has a little on the Veil, but it doesn't quite check the Renin 6.
Yeah, both players empty-handed. We see Grosofsky draw for turn. Still has that Nurturing Peatland if he wants another look. Plays Verdant Catacombs. He'll use the Peatland.
Now, from Grosofsky, I think I would have liked the plus from Lily before drawing the card, because now if he drew a Bloodbraid Elf, he's not going to be able to tick the Liliana of the Veil up. But he found a nice one off the top in Renin 6, and now he may want to go ahead and just ship the opposing Renin 6 for 1. But it might be better to just keep getting back Nurturing Peatland. But important to note, he has played a land for turn, though.
And he'll want to plus the Liliana before he uses the Renin 6 if he's going to plus it. Still has not done that. So there it is, Liliana to 5, Renin 6 to 4. Probably picking up the Peatland.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why these Jund decks are playing a couple copies of Nurturing Peatland, sometimes playing 1 copy or 2 copies of Baron Moor. You just want a little bit of added value from the Renin 6, being able to use some of those utility lands.
Syed now starting a turn on very low resources against a player at 10 life.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Zan, even though he does play quite a few of those I guess he only plays 2 of the Horizon lands. Doesn't have one here for the Renin 6. It's not doing a whole lot for him at the moment other than getting back a land. Now, if he does have Faithless Looting as the draw for turn, he does get to Faithless Looting that into a real spell.
Lava Dart targeting Renin 6.
I believe it's a spike, and then he's going to use Renin 6 to finish it off, which is huge. That's a big deal.
Right, so now it's 1 Planeswalker each. And you mentioned that Syed doesn't have a Horizon land to pick up. He also notably has all of his fetchable lands on the table.
Sure, so now Renin 6 is effectively just going to be put a card in my hand to protect from Liliana of the Veil if necessary, or to turn on Faithless Looting a little bit.
See Grosofsky fetch and Sep down to 9.
This has been a really back and forth game, and you're really seeing the kind of the upside of Renin 6 in this Gruul Phoenix deck. You know, it's actually able to kind of keep up with the Jund deck as far as longevity is concerned.
Here's that Peatland. That'll be sacrificed to draw a card.
Not to be confused with the Pete and Pete land.
What does the Pete and Pete land do?
Played a land already. Blood Crypt should be up there. Grosofsky accidentally played an extra Blood Crypt. We're going to get that stopped real quick here. He did play the Pete land for the turn and popped it. Blood Crypt should be in hand. It's innocuous, but so it's good to keep everything in good working order.
Yeah, fairly common mistake when it comes to Horizon lands when you sacrifice them right away, but now corrected.
As someone who draws Horizon Canopy and puts it immediately in the graveyard playing humans, it happens more often than you think.
All right, pretty nice draw set for Syed. He'll plus Renin 6 to pick up one of those useless fetch lands. Uses Faithless Looting, trying to clean up the hand a little bit.
Yeah, that's a nuts draw from Zan. Now he gets to turn that land into a spell. He can flash back Faithless Looting as well. And if he plays one other instant sorcery after that, he gets back at least one copy of Arclight Phoenix and can pressure the Liliana of the Veil to make sure that it can't ultimate next turn.
Given a long think to the discard, one's for sure. It's going to be that Arid Mesa he just picked up.
This deck is full of cheap cards, so he's got a lot of room to work here. I think one of the issues might be that maybe he drew a 3-mana spell that he doesn't really want to flashback Faithless Looting and discard. Find another Phoenix. That could be huge. If he finds a Lightning Bolt here off the Faithless Looting, that's game. And because of the misstep from Grosofsky, he actually knows that the last card in his hand is Blood Crypt. So if he finds Bolt here, the game's over.
Yeah, nothing to play around. That last card in hand must be interesting.
Yeah, dude, it's got to be like another Seasoned Pyromancer or something. It's got to be really good. But he's going to go for it. He needs to get those Phoenixes back. He needs to find an instant or sorcery here. Found a Manamorphose. That's bringing back 2 Phoenixes at the very least.
So it was Seasoned Pyromancer, but as you mentioned, here's that Manamorphose. That's spell number 3.
Can we find a Bolt? One-time dealer. Shrine of Burning Rage is a good one. Bring back 2 Phoenix, put you to 3, or kill Lily out of the Veil, or hit Lily for 3 and attack you for 3. 3 options here for Zan.
Yeah, that extra Phoenix definitely really good find here for Syed. He attacks down the Liliana of the Veil entirely.
Yeah, I don't hate that play. With just Blood Crypt from Grosofsky's side, it's a smart play to just go ahead and check it. Blood Crypt for the turn. Tarmogoyf's the find. That's not going to do it. If Zan draws a red card that he can cast here, that combined with a Renin 6 and the attack for 6 should be lethal.
Shrine to the first counter. Syed consulting the graveyard here.
Yeah, now we got an artifact with Shrine of Burning Rage, so should be a 6/7.
Arclight
Another
Phoenix.
Phoenix off the top. That looks like 9 to me. Bingo, banga, bongo. Going to a game 3. What a great sequence from Zan there, finding that Faithless Looting. The Lava Spike on the Renin 6, though, that's where the game really started to turn around. Zan able to check the opposing Renin 6, and his left unfettered for a couple turns allowed him to turn that Faithless Looting into 2 Arclight Phoenixes.
And that game, you got to feel good about that one if you're on the Lava Spike side of things. Syed winning a marathon affair against Jun there to even things up after that first sideboard game.
Oh, for sure. That was very nice. Very well played as well.
We're getting to about, I guess we're still early in Season 2, but Season 2 SCG Tour here, building up to the Invitational coming up at the end of the season. If you want to meet us there at SCGCON Winter and play that Invitational, maybe check out a Star City Games Invitational qualifier near you. Some great prizes for these events. $1,000 in cash to the top 8. Qualifications for the Invitational to first and second. Pick up some SCG points. Get that top 8 playmat and a set of our new personality tokens.
Dude, that playmat's insane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want that one. No, but I'm actually gonna go to go.starcitygames.com/IQ after this round is over. I'm gonna find out where an IQ is somewhere in California, where I'm moving to in a few weeks.
That is true.
And I'm gonna get me one of those Kraken playmats. That is a hell of a playmat.
And you can pick one up yourself. Go to that same website, like Todd said, go.starcitygames.com/IQ.
The dudes on that boat are screwed.
I like the way that the Kraken's head just looks like a rock.
Yeah,
in the
same.
distance. That's a really cool effect.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain about Syed's sideboard again. We saw 2 copies of Shrine of Burning Rage show up in game number 2, and both of them were Stink City.
Yeah, they were not great. Lava Spike would have been better. But, you know, he does have some mediocre cards in his deck that he wouldn't mind getting out. Gutshot's not particularly good. And there's a chance that Shrine of Burning Rage ends up doing more damage than something like Lava Spike, or at the very least just requires an answer from the Jun deck and kind of overloads their removal spells on all fronts. You know, Grosofsky only has 1 copy of Kolaghan's Command. That was the real backbreaker for Zan in that game, but ultimately was able to fight through it. I don't think that they're that bad. I just think that, you know, you want to keep as many instant sorcerers in your deck as possible so that you're as consistent as possible when it comes to things like Bedlam Reveler and Arclight.
Grosofsky pretty quickly mulliganing the opening 7 here for game number 3. Syed will keep.
Now this iteration featuring Wrenn and 6 is not as explosive as the version we saw last round with Martial Arthurs and those ritual effects, but it's a little more longevity in his game plan with 3 copies of Wrenn and 6 to go along with some of those Horizon lands from Modern Horizons.
Yeah, these new takes on the archetype, both pretty interesting. Syed and Arthur's going a little bit more mid-range. Arthur's heavy on Seasoned Pyromancer. Syed going into green for those Wrenn and 6s. You got to figure some of that is to combat the popularity of decks like Jund, so you can try to win more of these long games like we saw Syed do in game number 2 there.
Yeah, and we got 15 minutes to finish this game. Looks like Grosofsky's actually mulliganing down to 5 here. Zan has kept his. And we're going to need some help from Grosofsky's side of things to take this match down. Zan's got to be feeling pretty good about this double mull because it's going to be a lot about exchanging resources. And with Jund starting on 5 and the Grul Phoenix starting on 7, you got to feel good.
Yeah, Jund generally not a deck that is thrilled to mulligan.
No, but he could be aggressively mulliganing for Leyline in the Void, and that shuts down a lot of stuff from Zan's side of things. Now, it's not nearly as imperative to find Leyline in this matchup as it would be against something like Dredge or the Hogak deck, because it's kind of lightly touching the graveyard, and it can still just hard cast Arclight Phoenix. Turn into a Snare Thopter. We saw that game, first one he casts on turn 4, you know?
Yeah. And with Wrenn and 6 and all these fetch lands, Zan's build pretty capable of getting to 4 mana.
Right, for sure. So I'm pretty capable of getting to 5 mana as well for that activated ability of Seasoned Pyromancer from the graveyard.
Grosofsky, I believe, planning on keeping this 5, looking at what to put on the bottom.
He's got to pick 2. He's going to be on the play here as well. So down a card kind of in that respect too. Would have loved to have been on the play whenever you mull to 5.
Right, no beginning of game effects. Shocks for Overgrown Tomb to 18.
Yeah, but past his turn, which to me signifies he has a Fatal Push in hand. So if Zan deploys a creature on turn 1, he's going to have a spot remove for it, most likely.
Copperline Gorge, Soulscar Mage, there's the Fatal Push.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Ryan. In that regard, in that one specific instance, if you're Zan, is there any way you just don't play the 1-drop creature to try to not let Grosofsky utilize that mana? Or do you think it's more important for you to utilize your mana early on as opposed to later in the game?
Depends on the texture of the hand. I would have been incentivized to wait. It looked like Grosofsky was setting up to have a turn 2 Tarmogoyf.
That's what I thought as well. But the fact that he didn't have the Tarmogoyf, maybe he took a couple points of damage he didn't really need to.
Yeah, it worked out for Zan here. And
now,
here's turn 2 Shrine of Burning Rage. This one might be a heater.
Yeah, even if Grosofsky kills it, though, that's not that big of a deal for Zan. Most of the ways for Grosofsky to kill it give Zan a land in Assassin's Trophy. And we saw in the previous game that he's able to utilize those extra mana sources on things like Flashback Faithless Looting and Seasoned Pyromancer activation.
See Grosofsky fetching in step with Verdant Catacombs down to 17. Finds a Blood Crypt. See if he can produce that 1 copy of Kolaghan's Command here. Syed's deck, it is pretty lean, relatively light on lands, especially if you don't get Wrenn and 6 mana going, so it can be hard to leave up the 3 mana for the Shrine of Burning Rage.
Oh, for sure.
And here we see Wrenn and 6 for Grosofsky, so he shouldn't have any difficulty making land drops. Picks up Verdant Catacombs. Plays that, will pass to Syed. Shrine of Burning Rage gets its first counter.
Now, it's interesting to me that you said, you might want to hold up the 3 mana for the Shrine at some point, but if I'm Zan, I'm basically tapping out every turn, and I'm only popping the Shrine of Burning Rage if I'm knocking off a giant Tarmogoyf, taking out a Planeswalker, or finishing the game outright. I'm not going to be sitting on my hands. I'm going to force my opponent to find the answer, and I'm going to be accumulating as many counters as possible as the game goes.
Oh, absolutely. And certainly on this turn, you don't need to leave up 3 mana when it's at 1.
Right.
Monetary Swift Spear, that'll put a second counter on the Shrine.
Now Zan looks like he has at least one, maybe two Arclight Phoenix in hand. He's definitely looking for something like Faithless Looting. Doesn't look like he has it. Or he's just trying to protect his Phoenixes from something like Surgical Extraction.
But what he did have was Light Up the Stage. So Swift Spear turns that on. Grosofsky to 16. Light Up puts a third counter on Shrine of Burning Rage, finds Lava Dart and Seasoned Pyromancer.
Now, if he has a land from hand, he can actually dart during Jonathan Grosofsky's turn at some point. Puts an extra counter on Shrine of Burning Rage as well.
There is that land, Wooded Foothills. And he will pass turn. Grosofsky fetches end step to 15.
This Shrine of Burning Rage is going to get up pretty high, pretty fast. It's going to end up putting a lot of pressure on Grosofsky if he can't deal with it. But that's kind of the reason why it's in the sideboard and in the deck in this matchup. Because now Zan's just playing normal Magic. He spent turn 2 to play Shrine of Burning Rage. And he's just going to play normal Magic. And if Jonathan Grosofsky doesn't deal with it, at some point when Zan's tapped out, it's just going to equate to roughly 5 to 10 points of burn at his dome.
Grosofsky finds Overgrown Tomb off the fetch. We'll see if he can answer that Shrine.
Renin 6 active here for Grosofsky. He can get back another land if he so chooses. But really, he's got to deal with these problematic permanents on the battlefield. And if he doesn't deal with the stuff that's on the battlefield already, it's going to kind of cascade over time because of the Seasoned Pyromancer.
Lightning Bolt targets Monastery Swift Spear. Syed could save it if he wanted to.
Yeah, I think it costs a little too much.
Chooses not to. And I suppose the Renin 6 still finishes it off, even if you go for the full Lava Dart.
Very true, very true. So Zan here, very likely going to fetch a mountain, cast Dart on the dome, put Grosofsky to 14, Shrine up to 4, upkeep goes to 5. Seasoned Pyromancer puts it to 6 and cycles 2 cards from hand, probably going to be 2 copies of Arclight Phoenix and generating a couple 1/1s along the way.
Yeah, see Zan will fetch up Stomping Ground. Shocks to pull off that Lava Dart end stepped.
And the Seasoned Pyromancer is exiled, but it's exiled from a Light of the Stage, and he has just this turn to cast it, and I fully expect him to do so.
Upkeep, Shrine up to 5. Syed draws for turn.
I'm trying. Okay, here's a pretty interesting play that Zan can do. Manamorphose into cast Seasoned Pyromancer, discarding 2 Phoenixes, and then he can Lava Dart from graveyard, and if he has any 1 mana instant or sorcery for red, he can bring back both Phoenixes as well as making 2 1/1s off the Seasoned Pyromancer. And that's, of course, assuming Grosofsky doesn't have any sort of anti-graveyard card.
Clears Manamorphose, Shrine to 6. Probably just makes red there. Cast the Pyromancer right away. Shrine up to 7. Double Arclight Phoenix discarded. Going the way you described so far, here's 2 elementals. Looked like he missed the draw on Manamorphose. We'll get him that card and then get him 2 more for the Pyromancer.
Yeah, so he gets 2 tokens off the Seasoned Pyromancer, and that's going to give him three looks here to try to find an insert sorcerer to bring back both Phoenixes, and it looks like he's done it.
Yeah, there's Faithless Looting. Shrine up to 8. Or his trigger on the stack. Surgical Extraction targeting Arclight Phoenix for Grosofsky.
Now that's a little unfortunate for Zan. He really, really wanted to get those Phoenixes back, and that 1-of Surgical Extraction paying dividends here for Grosofsky.
Sees a hand of Manamorphose Copperline Gorge and the resolution of the Surgical.
Now he still has the Shrine of Burning Rage, which is currently being sent up to 8 counters. He still gets to draw 2, discard 2. Pitch some extra lands that he has in hand that he found off the Seasoned Pyromancer. And even if Grosofsky is able to deal with the Seasoned Pyromancer, Zan has enough lands essentially to activate the ability from the graveyard as well.
So now Shrine up to 8. You see the Faithless Looting resolving. Discard a Manamorphose Copperline Gorge. Those were the 2 cards that Grosofsky knew about. And at this point, Grosofsky really has to have answer to Shrine of Burning Rage right now. It'll go up to 9 naturally next turn. Syed's probably just going to throw that at his face. That's just too much damage to give up on.
Yeah, and he still has a dart in the graveyard as well. And he discarded a Manamorphose, so you have to know that his hand is really good. It's possible it was between Manamorphose and some innocuous threat. But Grosofsky desperately needs an answer. Shrine of Burning Rage here. And you have to know this is just turn 4. Zan got this 8 counters on the Shrine of Burning Rage on turn 4 after casting it on turn 3. Or casting on turn 2, rather.
Renin 6 takes care of an elemental, but that is all that Grosofsky can muster. We see Shrine to 9 as we go back to Syed.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised here if we just see an attack for 3, a Lava Dart from the graveyard, but this looks like it's just enough here. Zan going to send it to 10 with a Bolt, 11 from a Dart, and that's just enough.
Okay, Grosofsky at 211 off the Lightning Bolt. Here's an attack for 3. Grosofsky to 8. 8, by my estimation, less than 10.
Yeah, Shrine of Burning Rage looking pretty powerful here. We're seeing just what this powerful artifact can do.
Yep, there's the Shrine, and just a hand of lands. Grosofsky picks him up. Zan Syed, 2-1 with his interesting take.